This lecture is on theses and paragraphs. Theses, of course, being the way you pronounce the plural version of the word thesis. These are some really central ideas which students can have varying degrees of weakness or struggles with, and so I've tried to simplify things. If you got these ideas or notions down already, I'll give this a listen just so you can refresh yourself, but also if you do things your own way and are successful, great, keep it up, congratulations. Otherwise, listen and see if you can learn something new. One of the most important concepts of English composition is the thesis. A thesis is easily defined as the main idea of your essay, and yet that definition, like many such terms in our class, does not give you a better idea of how to actually put one together. On top of that, it has to preview the content of your essay as well as the organization of the essay. A lot of students, if they write their thesis, which is just a one-sentence summary of their essay, or even they do like I did when I was less experienced as a writer and write out your essay with a general idea in mind and then boil it down to that one sentence after the fact. Ignore that your thesis statement needs to present the organization of your ideas. You're saying, this is what I'm going to talk about because of these reasons, and you need to do a very basic list of those reasons in that sentence. For those reasons, I've made a pretty basic formula for a thesis. Come up with your topic, what it is you're writing about. State your position, which is how you feel about your topic, and give your reason categories. Don't worry about making this into a sentence at first, but every time you come back to sit down to work, try and refine, revise, make that statement stronger. It is one of the things that needs to be written pretty well. Some types of writing don't require you to have a position on your topic, so your statement could just be an emphasis of the importance of the essay or the topic you're talking about and why people need to read it and know, or you can just leave it off or say what the essay is doing with the information. If you don't have reasons, you're not writing a persuasive or argumentative essay, well, you need to bring up the categories which your essay will work through of your topic. The subtopics, the ideas underneath it, or the aspects of it or facets which you'll be talking about in that order. Now, you're not married to this. You can always go back and change your thesis, and certainly do so if you rearrange your essay. A common error of my students' essays is very long, lengthy paragraphs, or worst case scenario, the essay which is one paragraph over 2, 3, 4 pages. Sometimes this is a matter of formatting, but you really want to think about what a paragraph is. A paragraph is a bunch of sentences that are talking about one thing or one idea. You also have to think that a paragraph is like a spotlight on a specific idea, letting it stand out from the rest of them until it eventually gives way to another one, in which case the spotlight shifts to there. Think of sitting in a classroom and you're all focused on the teacher until maybe they pass it off to another speaker. But all the students in a classroom have all the lights shining on each of them, so none of them stand out, such as it is with the details of your essay if you don't have a better control over how you would structure your paragraphs. Go to each paragraph and say, am I talking about one thing here? If you are, great. If it's real complicated and you need to go on and on, well, think, maybe I should not let these details get lost, or maybe they go some way together in a better way. My rule of thumb is to say, if you go on for a paragraph longer than 3 to 5 sentences, just ask yourself this: is it one thing? If it's another thing that's creeping up there towards the end or somewhere, well, take that out and give it its own paragraph. If you can't expand that idea into a whole paragraph, maybe it's not something worth talking about. You'll also want to go through your paragraphs and summarize them into one sentence. Usually your topic sentence, which is what the paragraph is about, will handle this. But if you don't have a topic sentence, this will be a good chance to generate one and see where it fits. Transitions and repetition will help your ideas work together, although be careful with repetition. You don't want to sound like you've ran out of things to say. Your paragraphs shouldn't stand on their own, but they should be complete. Really simple basic advice, which should rather be replaced by someone reviewing your writing, would be to say, keep asking yourself why. Pretend like there's a little kid talking to you about your subject. When you raise a point, they say why. You want to elaborate and explain yourself completely and exhaust an idea. A key for all your essays is you don't want to bring up a lot of stuff which you say a little bit about. You want to say a lot about a few little things and really develop those ideas completely before moving on to the next thing. You also want to consider how much your audience might be aware of. You're wasting the reader's time if you define terms which it can be assumed that they know, or you're telling them stuff they already know about. So think, what doesn't my reader know about? And more appropriately, what do they need to know about this topic? You might also want to think, what don't you know about it? And fill in the blanks there. More on topic sentences now. Think of them like a mini thesis for the paragraph. A lot of instructors put a premium on them because they do help situate and organize your ideas. I'm going to talk about this and expand upon it for the rest of the essay or the paragraph, so to speak. You don't really need to worry about making them explicit because sometimes they do come about natural. They can situate and preview the organization of the upcoming paragraph like the thesis does for the whole essay, and they should be related to something specifically you're naming in the thesis statement. But just a few things to keep in mind. The topic sentence can be first or even early in the paragraph, but it doesn't need to be. It can be effective to save it till towards the end when you're building to a sort of conclusion or idea with the evidence you pile up. That being said, you want to keep your your topic sentences coherent, and you want to know at least what you're talking about, because if you bring up a new, different, or distinct point, your topic sentence will be a good way of saying, not literally of course, we talked about all this other stuff, but now we need to move on and talk about this other thing which you might not have thought of. More so than thesis statements, you're trying to find a sweet spot for your topic sentences. It is leading to further enhanced discussion over whatever subject or topic or ideas you're bringing up in the topic sentence itself. So you want to be concrete and specific. You're narrowing down on what it is you're going to talk about, what aspect of the topic. You won't want to be vague. And a good way to generate ideas, again, is the interrogative question words. Who, what, why, when, where, how. Now, perhaps one of the strongest things you can do to improve your writing, and really quite easily, is just get a really good understanding and have a catalog of transition statements. These will help situate your ideas, move between and organize your essay, think about what it is you're writing. There's really so much that they do for relatively so little. I've listed them here, but I will just bring up some considerations for some common ones or some common errors. If you are talking about a series, be it of events or items, go ahead and go with first, second, whatever, next, another, finally. But avoid using these most of the time. I know your first body paragraph is first there at the top. You don't need to announce by saying first we're going to talk about, or first whatever. Think of the different meanings of the word first. Is it first because it happens at the beginning of things? Well, with the personal narrative, that might be acceptable. Is it your first prize blue ribbon idea that you're talking about? Well, maybe there's a stronger way to open up with that sort of thing, or maybe the importance of the notion will be obvious, and so you don't need to see first we have to talk about this. The other ones are useful. I might also bring up, think of the differences just slightly, but however, on the contrary, nevertheless. These should come at the end of a logical sequence. I myself have a problem of saying however too frequently, and think of it like a rhetorical turn. You're saying we've talked about this, and now we need to talk about this other thing that's unrelated, or all that is true, but this is also true, and what does that have to say about things? If you use a lot of buts or howevers, you're saying but this, but this, but this, and so 1 and 2 are opposite of each other, but 3 is opposite of 2, which might actually make it more closer to 1, and so you need to move that idea around. Just be mindful and pay attention to such notions, and you should be okay with it.